Hey everyone and welcome to the video. So in this video I'm going to be discussing the LARP DLC, but I won't be using any gameplay so I don't spoil anything for you guys. However, I will be talking about the missions pretty in depth, so there's going to be a couple spoilers there. So with this DLC, I really don't know how I feel about it, to be completely honest. On one hand, it's the best DLC the game has by a long shot. It's really well thought out and played out. It makes sense in pretty much every department. The gameplay is really fun. It's a decent length. Like, by far, it's the best DLC the game has. But on the other hand, why is the thing they chose to flesh out LARPing? And that's kind of the problem. So let me go mission by mission and tell you its good points. So in mission 1, you have really good gameplay with a decent amount of cringy dialogue, but it's a really good length, it's quite fun, it has a pretty decent boss fight. Mission 2, you got some really awesome gameplay, it's really long, this is probably my favourite mission. There's again some bleh dialogue, but you got a murder mystery segment, some racing, some weird furry hunting activity, it's pretty awesome. Mission 3 is probably the only one I think feels a little like filler. It's basically just a turret section which you either love or hate. It's got a decent boss fight again, a good soundtrack, and it's a little shorter in length. Mission 4 again is a really big highlight. It's got a stealth section to start off, which is really fun. It's a really long length. It continues to add depth to Gwen, who is basically our friend throughout this DLC pack. It reuses some base game objectives, but not to a point it's kind of obnoxious. It has a pretty funny boss battle, kinda. It has wave defense towards the end and a really cool weapon segment, which I'll be honest is probably the highlight of the DLC. This new weapon is awesome. Mission 5 starts off with a really wild speech. It's a very long but fun base defense segment that I'll be honest towards the back end of it does feel a little bit old before it moves on. Then they basically sum up the entire Gwen arc, how Gwen basically progresses throughout the DLC is pretty neat. It has a really elaborate boss fight using elements of the story missions from earlier, and the boss fight room basically has things from those missions in, which is pretty neat. It kind of makes it full circle. And it has a pretty good ending to the story, which actually cracked me up once or twice. I can't believe I'm saying that. So, realistically, there's a lot of positives there. I haven't said too much bad about it at all, and yeah, outside of some things being a little bit filler, a little bit cringe, and sometimes a little bit pointless, the DLC is, for the most part, it's pretty good. I can't lie. It's a pretty decent DLC, and I wanted to come on and hate it, and shit on it, and basically go, haha, Volition made LARP DLC, that sucks. But I can't, because it's actually half decent. So, this is the conundrum we have, right? So, on one side, this DLC, again, is by far the best in the game. It's the most fleshed out one. It's basically a really fleshed out, fun, gameplay rich DLC based around LARPing. And that's either going to sound great for you or awful for you. It expands upon the base LARPing in the game. Again, great for you or awful for you. And realistically, it's probably the only DLC that actually feels like an expansion to the game. It's pretty decent. It's decent in length, decent in quality. And again, all the effort and passion definitely went here. You can see Volition really tried with this DLC. The problem, however, comes down to what Saints Row has had issues with for the last 15 years. It doesn't feel like Saints Row. The problem is it's LARPing at the end of the day, and people did not like the LARPing. This segment definitely was much better than the base game LARPing, and I do genuinely think it was fun. This is by far the most fun I've had with a DLC, and I'm actually going to go replay it because it's quite fun. Like, this is one I wish we had mission replay for. At least I don't think we have mission replay, I haven't actually checked yet. It comes with some really neat cosmetics, a new aircraft, new vehicles, a new section of the map, of course, that came in the previous update. I mean, like, it's cool, it's good, it's a good quality update. And if that's what you want, objectively, it's a good quality update. The problem is, it's the subjective part, which is where most of the community doesn't want a LARPing DLC. And that's what it kind of comes down to. So, on one hand, I commend Volition, genuinely, and I mean this right. I think they did very decent with this DLC. This DLC is fun, it's fleshed out, it's enjoyable. You have to give them props. But on the other hand, it's LARPing. No one wanted LARPing, no one asked for LARPing. Now I'll admit, and I will say this with full confidence, right? I enjoyed this DLC a lot more than I thought I would. I expected to go into and hate everything about it. But I even enjoyed the story arc of the LARPing DLC. Of course, the dialogue was as cringe as ever. But, like, I did enjoy it. I can't lie. I enjoyed this DLC. And again, it's by far the best one in the pack. However, this is the one they chose to flesh out. And that's all that kind of is lingering in my mind, you know? I was talking to Godzilla about this, right? And I actually had a pretty decent quote to sum up how I feel. It seems they've turned something we love, which is Saints Row, bad, and then turned something we hated, which was LARPing, good. It seems like they've made LARPing more enjoyable and Saints Row less enjoyable. And that's where I'm at. That's how I feel about this. This DLC is good, okay? If you enjoyed the LARPing, I assure you, this is a notable step up. And honestly, even if you didn't enjoy the LARPing, I will say give this one a go. It does get a hard recommendation for me, and in fact, for a quality sort of thing, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Like, maybe even an 8 out of 10. It is a really good DLC pack, one of the best we've had in the entire series. The problem is what it revolves around, and that content being LARPing. So, all I'll say is this. If you hated the LARPing, you probably will hate this. If you didn't really like the LARPing, you might actually like this DLC because it does flesh out the LARPing a lot more. And if you love the LARPing, you're going to love this DLC pack. The DLC pack by no means is bad, by no means is it insultive, but the only thing that really gets me about this is just, fans have been asking for something that resembles Saints Row for so long, and I could just tell so much effort, passion, everything went into this DLC pack from Volition. Like, it is the most fleshed out, fun, gameplay rich DLC pack I've seen in a long time from them. So what hurts is that it's around something people hated in the game. I almost feel like for a lot of people that effort is going to go to waste because it comes back to people going, it's LARPing again. And I think that that's what I want to take away from this. A lot of effort went into it, but I don't like that that effort was probably for nothing because people didn't like the LARPing. Myself, personally, I enjoyed the pack. I thought it was very good, and I think it's probably the first one I can hard recommend people to play. And I know that this might not sound as positive as it should for what I'm saying, because I am saying that the pack is the best in the game, and by far one of the better things they've released recently. But I'm just a little conflicted on how I feel about the LARPing DLC being the best one we got. They essentially made something people really didn't like the focal point of their energy, time, and passion. And that's a bit questionable to me. But on the flip side, I can see that there is effort, time, and passion in this DLC pack. And again, I'll commend them for that. Maybe it's not around something I particularly enjoyed, but they made me enjoy this DLC pack. And as someone who could not stand the LARPing, getting me to not only take interest in the LARPing, but actually enjoy it and its gameplay, that's not the easiest thing to do. So again, you get my respect for that. I just kind of wonder how I feel about the fact that the LARPing DLC was the one I ended up enjoying the most, And I guess that's where my thoughts are right now. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy this video. I will be doing a bunch more stuff on this DLC, because this DLC was actually quite hefty. I want to talk about customization, aircrafts, basically going over it one by one in a later video. But this is kind of a, just review of the missions, if that makes sense. And the missions are good. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.